Rolling. And action! 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 Action!
If you can rule that horse, you can rule the world!
You make them proud of themselves.
Young ones love you like a god.
Cinéma en coulisses vous conduit au cœur des fondements de notre civilisation en compagnie d'une distribution impressionnante réunie pour raconter l'épopée de l'un des plus grands conquérants de tous les temps, Alexandre le Grand. Connu comme le seul guerrier n'ayant jamais perdu une bataille, ce personnage mythique, incarné par Colin Farrell, était un homme passionné et préoccupé. Son admiration pour la mythologie a forgé sa vie et le monde qu'il a conquis à l'âge de 25 ans.
He was bred to be what he ended up being. He was bred to be excellent. He was bred to be a leader. He was bred to be a king. He was given all the facilities, the education from Aristotle, the tutoring in military aspects. His mind and his body were both so strong. And he wanted to transcend the acts and the deeds of his heroes, like Achilles in particular.
Conquer your fear! And I promise you, you will conquer death! When they ask you why you fought so bravely, you will answer, I was here this day at Gaugamela for the freedom and glory of Greece! Zeus be with us!
Alexandre III doit sans doute sa destinée à sa mère, aussi séduisante qu'ambitieuse, Olympias. Angelina Jolie, récompensée par un Oscar pour son rôle dans Une vie volée, a été séduite par les choix parfois cruels que devait prendre le personnage qu'elle incarne.
You were the vessel of which a man gave birth to a child in the world that was his. And I think she wasn't treated as an equal. She didn't feel like an equal. So I could see why she would be so determined to make him strong and why she would be somewhat tyrannical in her ways because she had to be. So I made it personal. I explained it to myself so I could be her completely and not apologize for her.
Understand how Philip thinks. For your own sake, your life hangs in the balance. His spies are inside your closest circle.
I'm his only worthy son. You crazed woman. He'd never hurt me. Even if Eurydice had a boy, he'd be 20 before he'd let him rule.
Yes. And you would be 40. Old and wise. Like Parmenion. And Philip's young son would be 20. Like you, now. But raised by him. His blood. He will never give you the throne now, Alexander.
Val Kilmer incarne Philippe II, roi de Macédoine, qui tient coûte que coûte à préserver son trône et envisage d'écarter son propre fils aîné de toute succession. Le comédien retrouve ici le réalisateur Oliver Stone après la biographie de Jim Morrison, The Doors. Il va devoir faire face à la détermination de son ex-femme Olympias, décidée à faire régner son fils Alexandre.
He was a very keen and shrewd ruler, and he saw early on that his son was highly influenced by his mother, who he divorced early on, and they were in competition for his affection and for influence. And he wanted him to be the heir and ruler, but he wanted him to believe and trust what he thought was important to be a good ruler, and Olympia was in pretty direct opposition to him.
They say already, Philip is a great general, but Alexander is simply great. But if you ever insult me again, I'll kill you. Missed you. In the spring, Persia. You command my horse from the right.
I'm honored, Father. I wouldn't miss it for all the gold in the world.
Which one day you'll have.
En voyant les tensions s'insinuer au sein même de sa famille, Alexandre découvre le danger de la politique et apprend à se méfier des autres. Seul son fidèle général et ami intime Héphaïstion, incarné par Jared Leto, a toute sa confiance.
They were raised together and studied under Aristotle. And they read the works of Homer together and dreamed of emulating Achilles and Patroclus and taking over the world. And they did exactly that. Hephaestion provided Alexander with support and love and friendship and was the person who was always honest with him, not afraid to tell him when he was wrong.
I've come to believe that fear of death drives all men, Hephaestion. This we didn't learn at school, boys.
I've always believed, Alexander, but this seems so much bigger than us.
Did Patroclus start Achilles when they stood side by side at the siege of Troy?
Patroclus died first.
If you do, if you were to fall, Hephaestion, even Macedonia were to lose a king, I will avenge you.
Dès 1969, Oliver Stone, qui signe le scénario et la réalisation du film, a eu l'idée de mettre en scène l'épopée d'Alexandre le Grand pendant ses études de cinéma à l'université de New York. Depuis, ce projet ne l'a pas quitté et l'a poussé à se mesurer à deux opposants de taille, Mel Gibson et Martin Scorsese, qui eux aussi projetaient de réaliser un film sur le célèbre conquérant.
It's a great story to tell. It's one of the greatest of all time. Great adventure ride. The man lived more in his lifetime than any single individual because he conquered the world. At the same time, he changed the world for the better. He brought together an empire, but mixed of East and West, interbred, tolerant, liberal to the degree that it was at that time. And after his early death, prosperity and trade, and it boomed. The whole basin boomed. He's always stood the test of time because A, he never lost a battle, but B, I think he had a compassionate spirit and people knew that. He conquered the world at 26. He left behind the memory of greatness. All his life was this search for the end of the world, for the meaning of life. And this is the greatest story of all. How can you resist it?
We had the most adventurous spirit in history, probably, of mankind.